Oh, what happened? I left my lighter. Oh my goodness. Let's see. Where's another one? Hold on. All right. Welcome. It's a beautiful 80-degree day in LA, and it's 4:20. So let's get high, man. All right. So, please feel free to submit questions. In the meantime, I thought that I would speak about, let me just get this right. Yes. All right. I thought I would speak about Tzveras HaOmer, the counting of the Omer, which begins the day after the first day of Passover, which was Passover began Saturday night. And so you began saying, is the Omer, is it's one of the 613 Omer. So a person back in the day in Israel, when Jews lived on the land, to perform the 613 commandments, that the farmer would go out into his field and he would take a bunch of wheat and he would wrap because it wasn't ready to be harvested yet, but he would wrap a band around it, like a rubber band, and as a sign that this wheat cannot be harvested, and instead has to be brought to the temple. And 50 days later, when now wheat has been harvested, so on the 50th day, the day called Shavuot, vows, because that's when we took our vows with God and received the Torah and gave ourselves to God. That was the marriage, Shavuot. And from the beginning, when the Torah was given, we were commanded, whether you have a field or not have a field, whether you're in Israel, you're not in Israel, that to count the Omer. So every day, or I should say every night, because the Jewish day begins at night, when the sun goes down, when the stars come out, and then we say the blessing, all Tzveras HaOmer, on the counting of the Omer, and we say the day. Today is the third day of the Omer, and we don't really, though we count from 1 to 49, we don't count the 50th day. But we also counted in weeks. We counted in days, and we counted in weeks, because 49 is 7 weeks. And these 7 weeks correspond to the 7 latter aspects of the tree of life. There are 10 all in all. Chokhmah, Bina, V'dat, that is the intellect. Chokhmah is the right side of the brain. Bina is the left side of the brain. And Dat is the third eye. Now, in the previous world, Chokhmah, Bina, V'dat did not break. It's called the Shviras HaKelim, the breaking of the vessels, that only the lower 7 broke. And that's why our week is based on 7. And the correction that has to occur on the earth, which the earth is called tikkun, fixing. So it's these 7 that we have to fix. And that's why we have a 7-day week. And it corresponds to these 7 sphirot, luminaries, which correspond directly with the 7 outer planets of the solar system. For example, Earth is blue, which is the right arm indicating chesed, kindness. And red, the planet Mars next to the red, that's the left arm, which is severity, Gevurah. Tiferet is in the middle, which is a combination of the blue and the red, and it makes green. Now, blue and red doesn't actually make green, but the blue is, it's sort of a blue and red makes purple. Nonetheless, see, there's a thing that those are additive colors. Means like you put them together and they add up into a darker color. But when it's light, then it takes it goes back into white light. Like you put all the light together, it's white. If you put all the additive light together, based on things, physicality, it becomes black. So in a sense, everything's sort of black and white. The light is white, and the physicality is black, and we're all kind of some sort of degree of that. And yes, so and so the middle, the green. So this is Jupiter. And just like the torso is the largest part of the human anatomy, so Jupiter is the largest planet. And then becomes like the outer three big planets, which are the two legs and the sex. And finally, the last little planet, Pluto, which is woman, which is speech. And she speaks into the universe with her 5 little moons extending way out, elliptical orbit, and corresponding to the 5 manners of speech: throat, palate, tongue, teeth, and lips, called Mananetzbach, the 5 letters of the 22 Hebrew letters, which needs to be written differently when it's put at the end of the letter. And that corresponds to the 5 parts of the mouth. There. So so each day, that's why we do it in weeks, why we count the Omer in weeks, because each day is a different, like a different color. And they correspond in, in this weekly pattern until you have 7 weeks. The way we do it when we count the Omer, we don't just count the Omer, but we count the day, because the 7 days correspond each one to one of these 7 spheros. Like 3 is Tiferet. That's the torso. That's beauty. That's truth. And in this day, we're supposed to fix the truth about. We're supposed to fix the truth about kindness. Because in the first day was the kindness of kindness, and kindness just wants to give. It has no judgment whatsoever. Just let me give. And on the other side, Gevurah, where the Gevurah of kindness was the Gevurah of kindness, that sometimes you have to hold back. You want to give, but you got to hold back, or else, maybe you give too much. Like if a man sees a real pretty woman, he just wants to give her a kiss, he has to hold back. He doesn't know her. So that's the Gevurah of kindness. In many ways, deal with children sometimes. You just want to give to them, but you need a little Gevurah that they'll stay on the right path in life. And then today, Tiferes is the truth of kindness. And that could certainly be debated. What is the truth of kindness? When is a person truly kind? And I think one of the answers to this is probably, when we give, without a reason or expectation. That's really the truth. That's true kindness. because, it's sort of like, if you give, you know, your girlfriend something, give her a flower. So, you know, you want, you want to get closer to your girlfriend. So you give her something, you want something out of it. You give her a flower and she says, "See you later, Buster. Nice flower." You didn't get anything from it. But true kindness, true love is you don't have to get anything. The reward of kindness is the opportunity to be kind. And we see that also, like on the street, there's so many people begging for money. And I mean, it's not like a normal, it's not like Bangladesh or something like that. Generally, people are not starving. At least here, in LA, there's lots of resources for people to get food, not to get housed, but to get food. So, in giving them money, some people say, well, what are they going to do with it? They're not going to buy food. They already got food. You're going to go buy alcohol or drugs or something like that. And and a person, is certainly free to make that assessment. You can give your charity to wherever you want. But there's a special thing about giving to a poor person, a person living on the street. And almost inevitably, the person will say, God bless you. Because God is always on the lips of the poor, because the only thing that stands between the poor person and death is God. And that's the true, connecting with God. And the truth is that none of us could do the mitzvah, the commandment of giving tzedakah, if there weren't poor people. And truly, they deserve a thanks. Thanks for being here. Thanks for asking me. So I'll open up my wallet. I'll open up my heart. I'll say a few kind words to you. Ask you how you're doing. How are things going? Obviously, ain't doing too good if you're on the street. But, everything is relative. A person who is on the street and because there's no one to give him kindness and someone comes and gives him a little kindness, it can mean a tremendous amount to the person. And God warns us, not to be mean to poor people or to women, single women who don't have, a man, to protect them, particularly single mothers. And that, we're supposed to be kind to them. Why? God says, they might cry out to me and I might hear them. And you wouldn't want to be on the other side of God hearing that, some dude really treated me bad. Maybe he gave me something, but he did it in a disrespectful way. So that's it, so one should, on this day particularly, in order to fix the kindness, to really be true about what we give to people, whether it's to a poor person or to a family member or to someone who needs help, that we should look into our motives, see whether it's really true. And every day there's a mixture of this combination until we do 49 days. And we've done each week with this combination of 7 to try to fix the 7 within the 7. And then we reach the 50th, which is the holiday of Shavuot, which is the day that we received the Torah and in the 10 Commandments that were engraved into a cube with 5 commandments on one side and 5 commandments on the other. And if you know anything about engineering, that's an impossibility, because whatever you engrave into one side, I can see the mirror image on the other side. But God, who controls every atom in the universe, was able to funnel, when you engrave, like you sort of funnel in and then you funnel out, and God put the atoms all in the right place to make this very precious stone, which was a wedding gift to the Jewish people. This is what God's going to give us a ring, God gives us the 10 Commandments and this beautiful stone that unfortunately, because the people ran out of patience and had built a golden idol, that Moshe threw to the ground and broke it. And we gathered together all and gathered them into an aron. And whenever we went out to war, we would take the broken 10 Commandments out into war. And then we asked God for forgiveness, and God forgave us. And it says the reason why Moshe broke it was because the law is, if the woman being married, who was the Jewish people, if we're in the middle of of the marriage, so and we're messing around, with someone else instead of God, we're messing around with this golden calf, then we're like a married woman. It's adultery. So Moshe immediately broke the tablets, because that's like the marriage contract. And then went in to find out now who's doing this. And it's generally the Erev Rav. There were a few, like the Jews got involved in it. They were killed. And so then Moshe went back up to the mountain and told God, it wasn't, we took care of this problem. The Erev Rav are like they're entities who had come down to the earth. You ever read the Epic of Gilgamesh, he talks about how these entities would come down and the way they could trap them down here. Like the earth wanted to, make them stay. They just had to, once they had sex, they weren't able to leave the earth. And so it was like hundreds. Finally, the Jewish people go out of Mitzrayim, go out of the confines of the earth that they left with them, and then made a lot of trouble along the way, and particularly with the golden calf. And so that was just like a really, really bad thing to do. So that's how we lost the original ones. And then in the end, Moshe brought up a new cube, and God engraved into that. And yes. And so anyways, I thought, we're talking about this, I thought I could read a little bit, from a book written, I don't know, maybe like 100 years ago, a little less. And it just says like an interesting thing, that that it quotes from the Torah, which says, Nasa Adam b'tzalmeinu kidmasenu. God says to the angels, let us make the human being in our image, which everyone has a lot of problems with this being in our image. That's inferring that God has an image, and that's completely against Torah. God has no image. So how are we to understand this? Well, obviously the angels have an image. And and what is the image of the angels? It's based on the Yud Hey Vav Hey, God's name, and the Yud Hey Vav Hey is the seed to the tree of life, and out of it grows the 10 Sfirot, the 10 luminaries, which are depicted in the sun and the 9 planets, in the 7 continents and the 3 oceans. The human being built on 3 triangles, plus the power of speech. And so when God said our image, so God was referring to the name of God and the tree of life, because that is sort of like the Kabbalistic atom, that everything breaks down to that. And so he says, the Adam Shalamata, the human being in this world, not in some spiritual world, Hine betzelmen demuz Adam ha'elyon is in the form of the supernal man. And what is the supernal man? Shein Sephiras Halyonos. These are the supernal luminaries. And what are the supernal luminaries? Are the sun and the 9 planets. And that's why the human being is made in the form that we were made in. I mean, it has nothing to do with, what they call it, coming from an ape or something like that, from an amoeba. When it says, God doesn't have a form, God doesn't have a physical form or a spiritual form. But God's name has a form, and that form is replicated throughout creation. And these are called Chochmah Bina V'dat, Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, Netzach Hod Yisod, U'Malchut. And everything conforms to this, because this is the tree of life. And whatever conforms to the tree of life has an easier path in life. And it's sort of like, the 420, everyone wonders, how did something like this become so prevalent throughout the earth? I mean, really everywhere, it's 420, So I like to smoke at 420. I feel like, I'm together with community. And it just happens to be that 420 is the gematria of Oshan, which translates to smoke, which is an acrostic for Olam Shana Nefesh, where that's that each letter stands for word, world. Olam is world, Shana is time, and Nefesh is soul. Shalom. Yes. And so that what's the meaning of that? I say that things just take on, when they hit that form, suddenly just everyone goes, oh yeah, that's right. Don't exactly know why, but hey, that's right. And it is right. And the second temple existed for 420 years before Rome burned it down. Even though it was stone, it was sandstone, where the stone is made from. You get it hot enough, it melts. And that's how they burnt down the temple. And so the famous story of Rabbi Akiva and his friends, that after the destruction, they were walking on the Temple Mount, and they saw the place where the 10 Commandments had been housed. And they started to cry. But Rabbi Akiva laughed. And actually, they saw a fox come out from the place. That's what made them cry. And Rabbi Akiva laughed. So they said to Rabbi Akiva, why are you laughing? He said to them, why are you crying? So what do you mean why we're crying? We're watching, this animal come out of the place where the 10 Commandments was held. That's why we're crying. Why are you laughing? So Rabbi Akiva said that we all know there's going to be 3 temples. The first 2 temples will be destroyed, but the third one will come down from heaven, built of material that is indestructible, and it will take the place of the first 2 temples. So now they see the second one's gone. Ooh, any minute the third one can come down. That's why he was laughing, so happy. Oh, ready for the third temple. Well, it's been like, 1,800 years since then. And there's still no third temple. But we're getting closer because time is running out. And God promised us that if we receive the Torah and did the Torah, we've been doing it for 3,500 years, 613 commandments, that God promises to bring us into the 1,000 years of woman and the 1,000 years of peace, what happens in 220 years. And therefore, that's a promise of the third temple. So truly, like Rabbi Akiva, we can look for it any day. All right. Someone asked me, what was my childhood like? Well, I was raised up, my first memories are San Francisco, and it's interesting that where we lived on Mount Davidson, to this day, there's still this huge cross there. And that was imprinted in my mind as a child, because I used to like to hike up the mountain and stuff where the cross was, and my parents always told me, don't go there on Easter, you're Jewish. So I always had this thing with the cross. It was very funny, just looming over me, you know. And then I grew up in the peninsula. I wasn't, although both my parents are Jewish, I wasn't raised with any Jewish knowledge. And I guess my parents, they divorced when I was, in the 5th grade. And after that, everything was downhill from there. So, but we all get what we get. And that's our little package to, to fix. And, people think, I was thinking about this today, that people think having a successful life means having an easy life. Everything works out. Whatever you try, you're successful at it. Everyone loves you. Everyone admires you. And that's like we're all should be trying to get to. And that's just not true. That's just not true, because, often when I read tarot cards and it gets to a card, I explain to them, well, this is a spiritual action. They ask me, what's a spiritual action? How do you take a spiritual action? So a spiritual action is one that you do, and when you get to heaven and they said, what did you do? You can point to that. I did something. I helped someone out. Hopefully it'll be more than one. These are our spiritual actions, which are engraved in the next world. And, and so by having an easy life, and being over to go to heaven, and they say, well, what did you do? And I was happy. Well, that's not the point of life, is to be happy. It's good to be happy. You do simcha, God, serve God with happiness, but we're here to fix ourselves. As it says, if there's a problem in the body, whether that's where you were born, where you live, who you married, what you did, all these things, if a person gets sick, it says there's a hole in the body, means there's a bigger hole in the soul. And often by going through one sickness, this helps, to rectify what was wrong. Sometimes they think of karma. Sometimes it's just like this bodily process that has to go on to get something that is spiritually wrong right. And that's why we don't always want to, get a doctor and get well real fast so we can go out and make more money. Well, maybe we should just live with our sickness and think about why we are sick and maybe what things we can do to make it better. No, my parents were not religious at all. My father was angry at God, and my mother was just very confused. All right. So here we've gotten to the end of our little program here. And God willing, I'll be back tomorrow. Try to do this 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday at 4:20. And I really appreciate if people, your questions, even personal questions. I'm an open book. Have a good one too. And I think we're all, particularly, you live so much life. I've lived over 7 decades. I can remember 7 decades. And you know, you really just want to impart as much as you can, you know, to people, you know, and you know, one person wrote to me once, "You must have had a really nice mother." And I was quite the opposite, man. She couldn't stand me her entire life. She wouldn't have a picture of me. So, you know, it's not, you know, it's not that we're none of us are necessarily what we are. I mean, what we appear to be, you know, and we're all a very interesting story to the creator of us. God enjoys all our stories. So let me sign off, and I invite you to come to my website, dovidhouse.com, where you can buy a book, take a course, and check out my work. All right. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. And I wish everyone was in LA. That'd probably be too crowded that way. Anyways, see you later, man. Come on.